November of 2023, the Cape Breton University Art Gallery began an 8-month restoration project of a vehicle known as the Eagar Brothers Auto Rickshaw, a Bajaj Model Type 24 single-cylinder, 4-stroke three-wheeler most commonly used for taxi services throughout India, Africa, and Southeast Asia. The rickshaw had been purchased in 2004 by Jeff, Steve, and Chris Eagar, 3 former Cape Breton University students. Setting out to fulfill a lifelong dream, the brothers drove the vehicle over 2,000 kilometers along the Grand Trunk Road from Kolkata to the border of Pakistan. A documentary of their adventure was later aired on both the National Geographic and Outdoor Life networks. In 2010, the Eagars donated the rickshaw to Cape Breton University, where it remains today. For its contribution to the university's 50th anniversary celebrations in 2025, the CBU Art Gallery assembled a team of dedicated specialists to bring about the restoration of the vehicle, which had suffered notable wear from years of exposure to the harsh Atlantic climate of Sydney. Leading the mechanical restoration was Atharva Doc Chohan, a former physician, auto specialist, and artist from Pune, India. Then a student at CBU, Doc's passion for the project was not just inspired by his love of automotive design, but also by his deeply held belief that the vehicle might also serve to bring people together.
When we've started talking about the vehicle being an ambassador for international students and all that, I also saw a secondary aspect. Because there's a love for vehicles in the locale, it might become a bridge.
In today's episode, Doc and I sit down to discuss his ideas about vehicular art, the unique automotive culture that exists in Cape Breton, and his belief that a shared passion for auto design and art can bring people of diverse backgrounds together in profound ways. Affectionately referring to Cape Breton as Hot Rod Island, Doc outlines in detail how his own lifelong fascination with auto and aeronautical design, which began for him as a young boy growing up in India, has led to the formation of close friendships locally, as well as an involvement in the Eagar Brothers Auto Rickshaw Restoration Project here at CBU. So buckle up and get ready to take a ride with us as we hit the road on our Wheels Without Borders. This podcast was recorded in Unama'ki on the traditional and unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The Cape Breton University Art Gallery recognizes its role in honoring the treaties of peace and friendship with a commitment to continually learn the truth of our collective history and build towards reconciliation and authentic allyship. I'm your host, Greg Davies, and this is The Strait and Narrow. Hello, Doc, and welcome to the show.
Great to be here, sir. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's good to have you back. So, Doc, I'm going to start off actually by going straight into the automotive art and your thoughts on this, why it's important to you, because we've had a lot of discussions about this in the past, but I think it would be really good for listeners to hear your thoughts on why you're so passionate.
Also, my thoughts about passion and art keep they're fluid, like
Yes.
any thought,
Absolutely,
So
yes.
it's always a developing concept, and it's a question that plagues all kinds of artists, right? Why is art relevant, or why is art significant? So I'm gonna go through a scientific perspective on this at the moment. So and
Go right
and
ahead.
science is the new school of religion. It's the new religion, right? It's the new age religion. And people do subscribe to a lot more to science because it is visible proof. So I've kind of figured out why art essentially is quantum physics and quantum mechanics in play, and where it's all coming from. So when you look at electronic particles, like subatomic basically just
minuscule particles, the building blocks of the universe. Their state of matter exists on electron movements in atomic structures. So atoms and electrons are in a state of vibration, and electrons are in a state of perpetual motion, and that creates the substance that it's supposed to be. So, for instance, the table, which is made out of wood, for the listeners there, because they can't see it.
The table that we're sitting at right now with these microphones.
Fantastic wooden. Oh, it's not even wood, is it? It's some sort of composite plastic. Yeah. Well,
But it looks like wood.
it's simulation wood. So all the atoms in this piece of simulation wood are essentially vibrating at the same frequency, which is why they appear to be the same piece of material.
Right.
This vibrational state creates physical states. And the building blocks of this universe are the same. Everything's the same. So, again, from the perspective of automotive art, you have to look at yourself as maybe a neutron or a proton, and the vehicle is it's an electron. It's a carrier molecule. It transcends. It creates vibration, which was essentially why I got into automotive art in the first. I mean, I was born with this obsession for World War II aircraft. Right? I couldn't get the Spitfires out of my head, the PBY Catalinas out of the head. I remember asking me dad at the age of, I don't know, 6. I said, I need a Spitfire. And he said, son, we do not have enough money for a Spitfire. So I kind of pulled me horses back and started looking at other avenues for vehicular expression, and I realized I love big old American boats. The lanyards on the road, right?
Yes,
like
the big
Dodge, Dodges, and the little muscle cars as well. And I remember we used to frequent the States a lot as kids, and I remember 68 Coronet. One of the neighbors, my aunt's neighbor, had a 68 Coronet, and what a fantastic beast that was, But yeah, she was no station wagon.
And this was roughly what age were you started to?
Somewhere around 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I was just obsessive at that stage, and the obsession kind of carried on until I got me a license. And then I set my sights on something that was a little bit more achievable in Pune and Bombay, which was getting me hands on an 81 Mercedes W123, and earlier it was a diesel, 81 diesel. It used as taxis in Africa. Reliable as heck.
Yes.
Of course, somebody would
They just keep going and going.
Oh yeah, though they're indestructible, and I destroyed mine within 3 days. There.
I won't ask how that happened.
Oh yeah. Sometimes one does get overzealous, So that kind of fell by the wayside because it was too much for me to handle at 18. And my father said, "You're in med school. You need something reliable to go back and forth." And we start our postings way earlier in the Indian system, so you start seeing patients a lot earlier. So basically, like midway through your third year, you're already in the OPDs. You're looking at patients. You're prescribing stuff. So and you need to be there on time, right? Like time is a rigid concept in the medical world,
Right. Absolutely.
unlike so at this moment. I just bought a brand new vehicle.
And that one was, what was that vehicle?
Oh, that
following the
was-
Mercedes.
This was a 2014 Volkswagen Polo turbo diesel, something that we don't get here.
No.
She was a beautiful vehicle. I called her Fury. She was really nice. But because of Fury, along came Phaedrus, and Phaedrus was where I really started. I was in my second year of med school at that point in time, and I'd had enough. I was lacking good automotive design in my life, and India being the dictatorial country that it is in terms of vehicular design, I couldn't get my hands on anything classic or anything custom. So I said, I'm going to build my own.
And the reason for that was that you couldn't get your hands.
Oh, there's an old law from 1904 which prevents people from doing anything custom in that part of the world, And that always made me want to run away from the part of the world. And we did. We constantly left the country and came back, you know.
Is that hard on somebody who has a passion for classic or vintage vehicles?
Oh, yes. Which is why I'd never go back. Yeah.
But I'm wondering also about the motorcycles, because you have a long history with motorcycles as well. And that will ultimately lead us into a discussion about the rickshaw as well, because it's pretty close to a motorcycle, or in its own way. But anyway, let's just shift to the motorcycles, because I know you've had a long involvement in that, particularly with Royal Enfields, and you have a shop.
I used
to.
I mean, it still exists. I just don't have a...
You're not part of the business.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I've got too much going on. Can't do too many things across multiple continents, right? It drives one nuts.
But you were involved in starting that business.
I did start it. I was one of the founders at that point in time, it was called Nomad Motorcycles.
Okay.
That
was in Pune.
That was in Pune, yeah. And that kind of evolved into something that's known as Auto Engineer at the moment. It's more of a aftermarket parts store at the moment. So they produce, just add-ons for for adventure touring vehicles. They don't do custom anymore. I was the designer, and I'm not there anymore. Plus, the custom world was kind of in the gray zone in India, right? So
based on what you've just said,
yes,
not a risky thing to get into, I guess.
Extremely, and you don't want that kind of, especially when you're, you don't mean anybody any harm when you're building a custom vehicle, but when the powers that be in the country that you're residing in have a vendetta against custom vehicles, they kind of come after you.
Right.
So, and I didn't want to be a criminal, so, I don't think...
You want to be an artist.
No, I
artist and a doctor.
Yeah, just keep everything legal, right?
Yeah.
So, I did build a lot of custom motorcycles, though, but I instructed all my clients. I said, these are not for the road. Of course, they did take them out on the road, but they came with a warning, right? They said, these are purely sculptural works of automotive art.
Yep.
Yeah, but Phaedrus and...
Yes, Phaedrus. So this is a vehicle that you're talking.
This is my first motorcycle.
Your first motorcycle.
Yeah, I loved the old Nortons, right? The calf races, the whole culture that came out of post-war England with Ace Cafe and,
right.
Just
right.
The whole thing. Like, it was hot rods in the States, and it was calf races in the UK.
Yes.
Right? And most of these boys who are building these vehicles are RAF or United States Air Force. They've had their, they've had their PTSD. Of course, it's not been termed as PTSD at that point in time, but the adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones, they want you to go fast. They want you to... kind of brings a meditative state in itself. But the motorcycle, because it was... so I found an Enfield. I'd never worked with Enfield until that point in time, and she was a 2013 Enfield. So it was still very agricultural. It was still a four-stroke, but it was kind of new for the time. And I chopped it up. I chopped it up a year after she was produced. So I made it look like a 952 Norton calf racer.
Okay.
Yeah, just a Barber Cafe. And then that bike went on to win multiple awards around the globe, and just got me into multiple magazines. And I was like, hey.
So your involvement in design, in automotive design here through modifications or customization, was getting recognition outside of India as well. Then
it primarily got recognition only outside of India.
Obviously,
because
again,
India wasn't... Well, I got a lot of recognition at night on the streets. Although that wasn't me riding, of course, so I don't know, right? Yeah, it wasn't... I don't know. I never took that bike out on the road.
But I think this is an important part of it too. That your passion for this, which is, I think, is reflected in just the way you're reminiscing about it, talking about it now. Even the name, giving your vehicle a name.
Oh, they're all characters. I mean, I've named every vehicle. Again, the vibrational frequencies, right? They have souls.
When I was growing up, we had a Pontiac Parisienne, 1966, I believe it was. I believe it was 66. That car became an integral part of our family for many years, and we had a nickname for it as kids. We called it Granny.
Oh,
so Granny was
Slow and lumbering.
Yeah. Well, we had a real attachment to that vehicle. So, and a lot of people name their vehicles. So that also is another interesting aspect of all this, too, is the way that we anthropomorphize them as well.
I don't think we do. I think they exist, but again, we go back to the scientific part of these things. Since the building blocks of the universe are the same, and this has been proved multiple times over and over again, and there exists a vibrational frequency which is imperceptible to human senses. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just like the infrared guns or ultrasonographic machines or magnetic resonance imaging machines, right? We just don't see it.
Or there are colors within the spectrum that we don't see because we're not adapted to that as human beings. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think we don't see the soul. I mean, we feel it. We do. And which is why we, as a social animal, we like certain people. We like certain... A human is basically a electromagnetic frequency transmitter and a receiver. We are radio. We do the funny. I mean, there's a lot of stories where people with metal fillings in their
Oh yes, yeah.
They turn their head a certain way and they can hear the radio in the head. Yeah. And again, these are those little hints where the universe is kind of like winking at you. Like, hey, you think you're different. You think you're separate.
Right.
We are not a separate entity. We are. And this is funny. I always say it is. Now, this might be a little bit of a kerfuffle to say, but it's self-experiencing itself through itself, if that makes sense.
That's a lot to wrap one's head around.
Yeah, it's a fun one though.
Yes.
And that is why the motorcycles. So to get to that stage of existential awareness, the motorcycles were conduit. I didn't start off as a meditator. I didn't care. I wanted to recreate history.
Right. Yeah.
But I wanted to recreate certain aspects of life. And I wasn't even recreating them in the same spots as these aspects of history had already pre-existed, Yeah. So I was not, I did go on to race in London and in the streets of Shoreditch and all that.
Right.
But
and you had experience also in Germany, I think, did you?
Yes, I raced a few motorcycles in Germany. Made me fluent, which is it's a fun one as well. Language again,
And how long were you doing the racing in the UK and in Germany?
Well, all throughout my med school life.
Okay.
So I'd take off.
Yeah. For how long at a time?
Months at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, months at a time, and just. My parents had taught me to travel since I was 2, right?
Yeah.
We left.
You embraced that.
Yeah. That's why I can do the job that I'm doing at the moment and traveling, as much as I am.
Right.
I don't mind being in a perpetual state of motion.
Yeah.
And those vibrational frequencies. So with Phaedrus, I realized I would take Phaedrus, and Phaedrus was a calf racer. So I did ruin my back while riding that motorcycle. That was a pretty major medical issue. And I knew I was doing it.
You knew it at the time.
I loved orthopedics too. The human body is a machine. You can fix the human exactly as you fix the motorcycle. There's so many parallels in design and construction of this universe.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff is designed according to the same kind of pattern. There's a pattern there, and the pattern's visible in everything. You study the heart, right? Take the human heart, for instance. There is an SA node, a sinoatrial node in the heart. It sends out an electronic pulse, which goes down the Purkinje fibers and makes the lower ventricles contract and the atria contract, and it pumps the blood around the body. It does the same function that a spark plug, combustion chamber, and a fuel line does.
Yeah. Well, do you think, we're talking about the internal combustion engine here, that design, so the basic rudiments of that design, do you think that comes from study or understanding of the human body?
It's not.
Or is it a coincidence?
It's not a coincidence, and nor does it come from the study. It is the creator being unconsciously creating itself. It is, we are the creator, a human created the motorcycle.
Right.
They imagined it.
Yeah.
And then they created it.
Yeah. But the imagination itself is part of the creation.
Imagination is God.
Yeah.
I find imagination is God. Let the kids daydream, I say. If you can imagine it, it will exist. And again, that goes into parallel worlds, theories of the parallel worlds, and time being fluid itself, as I keep saying.
Right.
It's all imagination. Imagination leads to creation, and the creator might create it consciously. You are a creator. Everybody's a creator, but
Everybody is. yes.
you are creating on a shorter time space conundrum than most others are. So when you pick up your brush, you have imagined the picture
Yes.
to a certain degree. You may not have it completely.
Yes.
Who knows? Sometimes you may have.
It's usually not a fully formed idea.
Exactly.
It's a rough concept. Yeah.
And that's how building a vehicle is like.
Yes.
I mean, I used to sketch all the motorcycles out. I used to sketch them out. I used to make massive blueprints on A1 size paper, and I'd show them to the client. Of course, the client had very little say when it came to historic design. They just knew. I'd have a conversation with them. I'd see what they resonated with, what kind of meditation, which is basically motorcycle riding, they wanted to do.
Right.
And again, with meditation and motorcycles, faders, the engine itself, the vibration it had started creating, because it's a big 4-stroke thumper, right? It used to put me in a very thoughtful state of mind. I was doing it unconsciously, but it create that imaginative meditation is basically imagination. Yes, there are multiple different types of meditation. You can go into nothingness, and that's impressive.
Right.
I say my biggest skill so far is just going into nothingness,
Right.
just for 11 minutes. That's the longest I've been able to sustain that for, and it's a long story how I know it was 11 minutes. But meditation is of a different variety. I mean, there's different types of meditation. So positive meditation, imaginative meditation, you're envisioning this spot where you're going to go through the ride. And I'd ride this calf race for 12 hours, 10 hours at a stretch, killing my back, of course.
It's a long time.
Oh, yeah, dirt roads in India, right? They're the best places to be. They're constantly... There's a lot of input coming your way because the roads are not great.
Right.
So you're constantly on a road course, right? You're almost rally riding.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that. And just
there's a constant stimulus of being aware of what's ahead of you,
And you did get the highways too. Don't get me wrong. You did get the highways where you could just switch your brain off and go into autopilot.
I'm going to go back to a point that you just mentioned, which led you into talking about the meditative state, and that was for want of a better expression, the rhythm of the motorcycle itself, of this particular motorcycle, and how the frequencies, how they resonated with you. This podcast actually started off with an introductory musical piece, which was the one that was used in the video for the promotions for the Eagar Brothers Auto Rickshaw. And it's the sound of the engine turning.
I remember the day you captured it.
Yes, I remember it quite well too. And
cold day.
It was a bitterly cold day in November. I remember that, in a tent that was still standing at the time. And and how the team, the automotive, the mechanics team had very cleverly rigged up an old Pepsi bottle to serve as the gas tank, and you managed to get the line cleared to have the flow of gas going in. We got it started, and I'm thankful that I was there with the phone at the time recording it, because I managed to capture that. But I didn't really think too much about this in the process of putting together the music for that video, the promotional music. But the rhythm actually is a really important part of it, because it sets the tone for the music that plays in it, which we've also played.
It does transition fantastically into the tabla, don't you find?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
There's a very yin and yang to it. It's
totally.
awesome.
Yeah, totally. But that rhythm, it just struck me even on the day of, while I was holding the phone and recording what I originally thought was just a video to archive this moment. But then when I heard the rhythm, I thought, oh, that's a great rhythm to it. When it developed into the music for the promo video, I felt it sort of captured a little bit of the spirit of the thing. So this thing that you're talking about, the frequencies and the rhythm that's created by the engine, and that resonating with you individually. I mean, these are all very personal things, but I do fully understand somebody who tunes the engine of their motorcycle or their car to have a certain sound, and how that makes them feel, how it can change the way they feel. is really important. I want to use this as a little bit of a segue into talking about the auto rickshaw and that project. We can get into the sort of mechanical side of it in a minute, but I actually wanted to go back to the moment when you first encountered the Eagar Brothers Auto Rickshaw here on campus, because as you know, there's a wonderful story behind it. But I think your first encounter with it was probably not unlike my first encounter when I saw it in storage here. This is a number of years back now. But when I saw it, the first thing I thought is, what is this? Like this gem, this, what's the story behind that? Because you can't take your eyes off it. It's fascinating to look at.
I mean, I never looked at them when I was in Bombay because I didn't care about
Oh,
them.
of course.
When there's tons of them around, they become kind of like part of the scenery, right?
It's like being in the Piazza San Marco in Venice and seeing pigeons. You don't. Nobody thinks twice
The
about it.
value goes down, when they're easily accessible.
But when you see that as a rare bird outside of where you know
It was interesting. I remember I landed in Cape Breton on 2nd of January, 22, and I was walking around the campus. Right, Cape Breton was a very calculated choice. I wanted to get away from every big city that I'd ever been in, and I wanted to be in a place where I could drive my big old Dodge station wagon.
Right.
Every day.
Yes. We can get to the station wagon in a wee bit too.
Oh, yeah.
But yes. Yeah.
So when I got here, I was just doing, you take stock of your surroundings, right? You walk around, and I was walking around, and it was snowing. It was my first encounter with a lot of snow. I've never lived in a place where there's not
There's that much snow.
Yeah. I mean, just being able to travel, you want to stay with the comfortable part of the world, right?
Right, of course.
I mean, not necessarily. Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan was a fun time with my father, but this time it was like, it's just snowing, and I wanted to experience just walking around the university. I remember walking around the corner there, and there's a freaking auto rickshaw here.
Yeah. And what's that doing?
Yeah, and out in the snow, right? I think we must be the only folks who have ever driven an auto rickshaw in the snow in Sydney Mountains. I mean, it was also not us who was driving it. It was some random folk who were driving it. So, I don't know who did that, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. Also, maybe wasn't on public roads. I don't know. Yeah, it was just
I
like
hear they've been thinking about going through the Robbins Donuts.
Oh, it would have been fantastic, right? It would have been fantastic. You pull into the Robbins Donuts drive-through, and you're like, get me whatever, like a coffee or something. And the lady just does not she can't figure out what this is.
Right.
A toad on wheels. I don't know. It's. But yeah, when I saw it, it was in a sorry state, right? And,
Yes, it was starting to fall into disrepair.
but the art on it made it really unique and significant, so I could trace the story of it. So when I first laid my eyes upon it, I kind of did the reverse image search in Google and just learned how to do that, and found out the story about the Eagar Brothers, and that this vehicle had actually featured in a National Geographic documentary, and was a vehicle of historic significance from a traveling perspective,
Right.
at that
Yes.
point in time,
Yeah.
especially from the Cape Breton perspective as well.
Absolutely. And it was also featured on the Outdoor Life Network as well. So it gained a fair amount of attention actually in its time.
Yeah, and people around the island did seem to know it.
Yes.
They had not seen it in a while, but
Right.
they did seem to know it. And I went around asking folks, and that's how I think when we first met, that's what we spoke about. I remember that was one of the first conversations we ever had, like with the vehicle there, and and that's how the idea was born, wasn't it? When we started talking about it, and then
Well, I know when I first saw the vehicle, it was actually indoors in storage at the time, but it was moved outside later on. But when I first saw it, and I had that reaction, it was just, my goodness, like, what is this? And I need to know more about this thing. And in that moment, I knew that something more was going to happen with that vehicle at some point. I didn't know how or what that would look like. So when I was approached in 2023, early in 2023, to think about the 50th anniversary celebrations and what the art gallery might do to contribute to that, my mind immediately went to the rickshaw. And I thought, that's it. This is the moment to revitalize it, to put it back out in the spotlight and transform it into something that is of value to not just to the university, but to everyone, to the community at large. And there were just so many aspects of taking on that project that just hit home for me. One being the fact that it's a symbol, you know,
It is.
it's a very powerful symbol. And at the time, we had so many international students coming to
And
see.
based on the symbol too, right? Like as a symbol, right? It's omnipresent throughout the country of India,
Yes,
omnipresent throughout the continent of Africa.
yes,
It had its birth in post-war Italy. It was the Germans had a version of it called a tempo matador. Tempo
I'm not
being,
familiar with that.
oh, well, that's a nuts vehicle.
Uh-huh.
It's the engine's on the front wheel.
Oh, okay,
It's a three-wheeler.
okay.
It's the engine's on the front wheel. They actually made panel wagons out of those.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I think I do know the vehicle.
Yeah, and then there's a version of the Tempo Matador in Punjab. So all the kids from Punjab would be very familiar. They wouldn't know it as the Tempo Matador, but
Right.
they'd know it as.
But they'd recognize the vehicle.
They recognize the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's called something else in Punjab. I forget. And yeah, just the vehicles are used in Kuala Lumpur. They're used in Singapore. They're omnipresent.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's such a unique design. And I won't say it's the best design because the tricyclic gear, you know, the nose wheel is the turning wheel,
Right.
and there is a propensity for them to topple over, which my father used to.
Well, this is like it's like the Bond car. Not referring to James Bond, but the vehicle known as the Bond.
Bond bug.
Yep.
The
Yep.
Bond bug. Yeah.
And I
The Land Robin, for that instance, right?
That's right.
Which was made famous by Mr. Bean, Ron Atkinson.
Yes.
And it would topple.
Right. Right.
And they were known.
And then there was the BMW Isetta, which was but had the wheel on the back.
And that is a much better design.
More stable vehicle.
Yeah, and
so I do remember the Bonds would tip over.
Yeah.
I remember that quite well.
And the whole reason why the tail wheels in the back make sense is because the BMW Izettas and the Messerschmitt,
Yeah, that's another one.
yeah, they all came from World War II aviation companies, right? Germany post-war couldn't really militarize again.
Yeah.
And these little cars helped them get around, and all BMW, Messerschmitt, they were all aviation companies,
Yeah.
right? So they're using their knowledge of tricyclic landing gear on aircraft.
The rear wheel, the single rear wheel on the back.
Yeah.
Is
Tail draggers.
Yeah, it's a very classic aviation design. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
To go back to
The concept.
the concept, yeah. So I mean, we are talking about very much an iconic vehicle, and I knew at the time when the gallery, when we got the green light to go ahead with this restoration project, and that's where we started talking seriously about this vehicle. And I got to know a little bit more about your passion for that design and for the project.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you were very much invested in this thing from the start. It's partly from a love of that particular design. I know you just said it's not by no means a perfect design, but there is something very endearing about it, and there's certainly something iconic about it. And I have to say, one aspect of the project, after the fact, once we had finished doing the restoration and it was unveiled, since then we've had students from all around the world who come in, and very often you can just see their faces light up because they recognize it immediately. It takes exactly.
Yeah, home away from home.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think is really quite interesting to look at in this project is how what is really centered around a vehicle and its story. We haven't really talked about the Eagar brothers and their story, but because that's attached to the university as well, the Eagar brothers being three graduate students from CBU who went to India. Well, they actually went to India twice, but in 2004 when they went back and purchased this vehicle, drove it across India from Calcutta all the way to the Wagah border. And that's when the documentary came out of it. That story is a wonderful part of it. But the other side of it is the way that this vehicle has become sort of ambassador for welcoming students to campus. People who are not familiar with these vehicles, who haven't grown up with them, people locally, for instance. It's still fascinating to see it.
And Cape Breton. I was writing for the newspaper at that point in time when we
Right, yeah.
Cape Breton. I always coined the term hot rod island for Cape Breton.
Yes. Yeah.
There's more hot rodders here per square kilometer than Burbank, California.
Honestly, that is so true.
Yeah.
I especially in the summertime, in the fall too, I just see so many vintage vehicles. And it really is quite extraordinary, the concentration of classic cars and vintage vehicles.
And I'd say the regional pastime of Cape Breton is going out for a drive. The evening drives, go into your drive-thrus, get your coffee.
Yep.
Just see the sunsets, drive along the coast.
Yep. Enjoy the view.
Yeah. But the vehicle, again, is a conduit, right?
Yes.
And maybe a little bit more, there's a lot more awareness about design in the West. Just because post-war, even pre-war to that extent, even since the inception of the vehicle. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of design based vehicles. Some of the most beautiful vehicles, which were designed in France, Fagoni Fallaci designs on the Delahaye's and stuff, they all ended up in India.
Yes.
The Maharajas, we had filthy rich people around.
Became their luxury.
Yeah, I mean, stuff that people can't even imagine, right?
Yeah.
But there is a design-based component to the automotive culture in the West, even today. And any vehicular culture has a design component to it, even modern vehicles for that matter. Any average individual who does not even care about vehicles will go into a showroom and buy something that looks nice.
Oh, for sure. Aesthetics play a very important role in all of that. Yeah.
But
it is embedded in North American culture. I don't even want to just say in Canadian culture. In North American culture.
Oh, it's around the globe.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I'm just, in terms of North American culture and its relationship with cars, I mean, when I was young, it was still the Barris days of, the custom cars coming out of California. And that was huge. It's a really big thing. So this is an extension of all of that for sure. But yes, you're quite correct. No matter where you go in the world, the aesthetics of the vehicle are going to be important to just about anybody.
And that culture is very apparent here.
Yeah.
And when we've started talking about the vehicle being an ambassador for international students and all that, I also saw a secondary aspect to it. I said, because there's a love for vehicles in the locale, it might become a bridge for, because I don't like to harp upon it too much, but there are divisive elements in society, and they've always existed. Just in the modern world, because there's a easier flow of information due to the internet and all that, media shows a certain aspect of things. And yes, they are true to a certain extent too. There is truth in everything. Stereotypes do exist because there is truth there to a certain extent, but judgment is the bane of modern society, as I say. We tend to judge a lot more just because of higher intakes of information.
Yes.
And
sometimes fear also, the unknown.
Oh, yeah. Fear is the only thing that drives this judgment, fight or flight, right? That's the first response. But this vehicle was supposed to be an ambassador as a bridge to, well, people just knew, oh, India, that's where you eat food from, right? Oh, God, no. We have more culture there than most people realize. There's a huge automotive culture there.
Well, yes, and I feel that this is just to sort of build on your point. At least in what I've seen of the vehicle and its reception after it was unveiled last year in 2024, and people's response to it, like for instance, we had it at Show Your Ride. On Sydney Mines, and it was really very interesting to see people responding to it. People who otherwise might not be particularly interested in a vehicle from India, for instance. Suddenly it becomes a genuine source of interest, and people want to know more about it. They want to know more about the story behind that particular vehicle, the Eagar Brothers story. But they're also asking questions about its design and where did it come from. When you talk to them about Bajaj, the company that designed this, or manufactures.
Ripped off the design.
Well, yes, yes. We'll say the Italian Piaggio design. Both vehicles, the Vespa, more famous Vespa for most people, the little scooter, which is memorialized in films and so forth. but also the ape, which is the basis for the
rickshaw.
for the rickshaw.
Yeah. I think the Bajaj still calls it an ape. So ours is an ape.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I hadn't realized that. But the story behind it in terms of Italian design, which also was connected, as you know, to aviation, aeronautical design, right? But when people hear that side of the story, it suddenly isn't just this quirky little vehicle that came from India with this particular story of the brothers, which is fascinating in its own right, but it's also now interested in the design and how did that evolve? And to even hear that it went from Italy to India, became a licensed design for Bajaj to utilize. People really get engaged with that. And I think that aspect of it is very interesting for me to look at because it's fulfilling its role as this ambassador, not just in terms of international students who maybe recognize and brings them back home. A little piece of home comes back to them or just kind of warms their hearts. But it's also opening doors for people to see what they haven't necessarily seen before. And I think that's a really fundamental, years ago, I was a docent in the Albright Knox Art Gallery in Buffalo, and one of the first things we taught it was a year-long training program. It's pretty intense. One of the first things they taught us was what is the role of the docent? You're an ambassador of goodwill, and that phrase has always stuck with me because whatever you interpret, whatever information you provide to people when they come into the museum or the art gallery, and you provide them with that experience, your fundamental mission is to welcome people in and to provide them with an opportunity to engage with something that's unfamiliar.
That's awesome.
And I think that's exactly what this vehicle
Oh,
does.
yes. A good vibration. Again, we go back to vibration.
They should be playing the Beach Boys.
Oh, it is all about vibration. Okay. And the vehicle does have a great vibration. The Eagar Brothers clearly instilled it. And this is funny, right? Like the creator, the human as a creator. I remember I got two identical Enfields once into the shop. They'd both been ridden for a couple of years, but two completely different individuals.
Okay.
One was a very aggressive rider.
Yeah.
And the engine had worn differently.
Okay.
So the driving characteristics of that vehicle were completely different to its, and they were almost identical. I mean, they were identical builds, and they
But not identical condition.
No, because the creator is instilling energy.
Right.
The vibrational, like just because of the way he drives. And I think it's just, again, I'm sitting in this chair, you're sitting in that. You're sitting in a much different way than I am. So the chair is going to wear down differently.
Right.
Human lives, our soul has the vibrational frequency which it imparts to its surroundings and kind of leaves a trace behind. Which is why historic objects clearly have their own energy.
Sure. I mean, that's a whole other massive topic, but you're exactly right to talk about the aura. The aura that
I remember a piece of research that you had pointed out a couple of years ago. Now, this was way before the project. It was electronic brain mapping done on patients as they looked at the same piece of art.
Oh, yes, yeah.
One which was the original one and one which was an exact reproduction. And there was heightened electromagnetic resonances when they're looking at the original.
Yes.
Clearly, there's something that the creator has imparted to this piece because there's emotion there. And emotion, energy in motion. Emotion's energy in motion. And which is why art, which is why AI art doesn't evoke anything. There's no emotion there.
Well, that's actually most likely going to become the basis of another podcast discussion, the whole issue of, because what you're talking about right now is this idea of aura, the aura that's associated with the work of art. And it's been discussed in art history before. And it's come up in more recent discussions around digital art and digitization and the reproduction of an original into something else, which is a very complicated topic in its own right, but it's one I'm hoping to revisit.
And you look at all the auction houses, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Antique Roadshow, for instance.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is just look at something like the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
The throngs of people who go every day to the Louvre to go and see the Mona Lisa. And I've observed this firsthand. I've been fortunate enough to see this, particularly in its current location, because it has basically a room dedicated to it. The numbers of people coming in to see it are extraordinary, and as you probably know, it's actually a very small painting.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah.
I remember being there and I couldn't even see it. It was
Yeah.
too tiny.
Yeah.
It's
And so,
short.
but people still, well, some people are disappointed by that experience, but a lot of people go and they still walk out feeling somehow fulfilled because they were in the presence of this thing. And this is the aura that we're talking about, which you cannot discount. It's the authenticity of the original. It's the mystery of it, and the history of it, because it's been written about so many times, and people know that it goes back to Leonardo da Vinci, or at least we believe it does, because there's a whole other theory that the one that's sitting on the wall is not. But anyway, but this idea of the aura is a really important aspect of why it can resonate with us.
I think every soul here comes with 3 questions. I'm not going to use the profane way I usually explain it, but I'm going to say, what is this? And by this, I mean everything around you. What is this? So, what? That's one question. Then you look down at your own hands and you see flesh and bone and you say, who? Who is this? And then the third one, which is the toughest one to answer, and I still haven't been able to answer it completely. These two I've answered, what and who. The third one, why is this, is the toughest to answer. And that one, I don't think can be answered from our limited perspective at this stage.
I think even at this point in time, and in some ways I think it's been heightened by things like AI and digitization, our need to be in the presence of the aura of something to even if we don't understand what it is, to nonetheless have that experience.
Energy is energy in emotion.
Yes.
Energy in motion.
Yeah.
This aura, you're feeding it. So which is why stuff like Woodstock and 69 is such a creative, energetic blast.
We kind of actually made a segue into talking about what I think is your Wheels Without Borders concept, which is that ambassador aspect of it, the ambassadorship of not just the Eagar Brothers Auto Rickshaw, but of certain vehicles as well, that they can be a kind of mediating force.
Just like my wagon.
Your wagon is a good
wagon's
example.
good.
Yeah.
I call it the mothership.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the wagon.
He came from California.
Yep.
I drove it across.
Yeah. But maybe we should just clarify what type of vehicle. I mean, it is a station wagon.
A 73 Dodge, the Coronet station wagon. You got to be, but she's called a mothership, and I drove it across. When I came to Cape Breton, and
From California.
I drove it from Chicago.
Oh, from Chicago.
Chicago. She's barred out in California. She needed a lot, and I drove it from Chicago.
Yeah.
Interesting. Took me a couple months to find the right car. I went around. Me and my father. We went, and then that was the last time I met my father.
So I mean, that aspect of it too is very personal.
Oh yes. The people involved with that vehicle, they're very near and dear to me. So there were a few people involved, and I found her in California.
Yeah.
I scoped out 6 vehicles. They're very rare. Just the Dodge wagons are extremely rare. They're the rarest of the rare in the station wagon category. Not many exist today. It's funny how they were the most common vehicle at one point in time, and now it's the rarest vehicle. And some of the rarer vehicles from back in the day are some of the most common vehicles today.
Right.
So it's yin and yang is always.
Well, back to our pigeons in Venice.
Yeah, yin and yang is always fulfilled in a weird manner. But yeah, no, she's an ambassador of goodwill. It's made me meet. I mean, I always met people through my vehicular passions and historic passions.
Yeah.
And
But she's been a bridge.
Oh yes, definitely. Because I mean, it lets me talk to people in Cape Breton.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain mutual understanding when I turn up in my steed.
It was actually the mothership that I think was probably the thing that led me to you when you were here on campus, because I do remember seeing it I distinctly remember seeing it one day driving by, and I thought, whoever that fellow is, I have got to meet him. Because it was just because it was one of those. I'm a bit of a sucker for things that are unusual, that stand out and just make you sort of.
It entertained you.
It entertained me, but it also did exactly what that rickshaw did.
Yeah.
It kind of grabbed my eye and it
Created the bridge.
it got my interest. You know, it's like, oh,
Yeah, it created the bridge between us.
absolutely. In that moment.
Yeah,
In that
and
moment.
maybe if I didn't have the vehicle, we would never have done the rickshaw.
It's possible.
Again, the butterfly effect is a reality, right?
It's certainly possible.
Yeah.
But no word of a lie. When I saw that vehicle go by, and I didn't know you at the time, but when I saw that go by, I just thought, whoever that is, there's a story behind that. There's a character behind that. There's somebody who's interesting there. I have to meet him. So that's kind of how that happened.
I'm happy about that.
And then we both discovered the rickshaw. Yeah. And then that just led into
That's what art does. I think art creates that. You want to meet the artist.
absolutely. Yes. And if you can't meet them personally, you meet them through their artwork. You know. Yeah. Well, listen, this has been a wonderful conversation. I
Usual, as usual. It's always
enjoyed this. Yeah. Yeah, I have to go for a ride in the mothership again sometime soon.
Oh, anytime. The doors are waiting.
Oh, we should also just mention very briefly, because people do come in and ask about with the auto rickshaw, whether the motor is still hooked up. And
Definitely.
it's technically not hooked up at the moment, but it can be reconnected.
Well, we burnt an ignition coil on it.
Yeah.
We burned the ignition coil, and it's going to be we got to fly one in. Yeah. There's no rickshaws here where we can.
No. But the motor is still in there, and it could potentially still run.
Yeah. You should have a fleet of them around campus.
Oh, well, that would be ideal. In a perfect world. In a perfect world.
Oh, we can create it.
That's for another time. Anyway, thanks so much, Doc. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to The Strait and Narrow, the official podcast of the Cape Breton University Art Gallery. My guest today was Atharva Doc Chohan. Our sound technician has been Derek Gallant. I'm your host, Greg Davies, curator of the Cape Breton University Art Gallery. Thanks for joining us today, and please stay tuned for further episodes featuring more guests from Unama'ki, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and Atlantic Canada.